it. Let's just get right into it. We are all, hardwired to freak out about the small stuff, the tiny little costs we can see. But what about the big ones? There are these three massive, wealth-destroying fees that are working against you in the background every single day. And today, we're going to drag them into the light and show you exactly how to plug those leaks. It's kind of wild when you think about it, right? It's just human nature. I mean, you'll fight tooth and nail over a $3 price hike at the gym, but then let a fortune just, poof, vanish from your retirement account and not even blink. This slide just nails the problem perfectly. We're all fired up about the $3, but completely blind to the $42,000 that are being siphoned away by fees we don't even know are there. We're just fighting the wrong battle.
And look, don't get this twisted. These aren't taxes. I mean, you see your taxes. You feel that sting every time you look at your paycheck. No, these fees are way, way more dangerous, and it's because they're invisible. They just get skimmed off the top, automatically, no questions asked. And the worst part? They don't just cost you money right now, they're stealing your future for decades to come.
Okay, so let's talk about silent killer number one. This is the big one. It's the fee that sounds so tiny, so harmless, but it does the most damage over time. I'm talking about investment fees. You might see it called an expense ratio or an advisor fee, but trust me, it's all the same monster, just wearing a different mask. And this slide uses the perfect word for it: parasitic. Think about it. A one-time fee, that's fine. It's a transaction. But this is different. This fee gets charged every single year on your entire balance. It doesn't matter if the market is up or down, they take their cut. And as your money grows, guess what? The fee grows right along with it. It's basically a permanent tax on your wealth that you never voted for.
So let's just look at the cold, hard math, because it's horrifying. This table lays it all out. You've got two people, right? Totally identical. Both invest 10 grand a year for 30 years. They get the exact same returns from the market. The only difference, the only one, is the fee. So investor A is in a low-cost index fund, paying a tiny 0.04%. They end up with $1.2 million. Pretty great. Now, look at investor B. They're in a typical high-fee mutual fund, paying 1.5%. They walk away with only $900,000.
Just let that sink in. Same amount saved, same market performance. The only difference was that tiny little fee. And the cost? A $300,000 hit. Just gone. That's a house. That is years and years of your retirement vanished.
And here's the part that really gets me. That tiny 1.5% fee didn't just cost you 1.5% of your gains. Oh no. As this slide shows, it literally destroyed a quarter, 25% of your potential wealth. A full quarter of your life savings just handed over as a thank you for the privilege of them holding your money. It's insane.
You know who understood this better than anyone? John Bogle, the guy who founded Vanguard and basically invented the index fund. He called it the tyranny of compounding costs. He knew that the whole system is set up like a casino. The house doesn't need to hit the jackpot on you. They just need to take a tiny slice of every single bet over and over and over for decades. And that's how they get rich.
All right, let's move on to silent fee number two. Now, this one is even sneakier because it doesn't even feel like a fee. It's the price you pay for doing nothing. I call it the melting ice cube effect.
Just picture this, okay? You've got $50,000 sitting in your checking account. A month from now, you check the balance, it still says $50,000. You feel secure, right? But that money is like a big block of ice sitting on your counter. The number on the statement hasn't changed, but it is constantly, slowly melting away. That little puddle of water, that's inflation, and it's silently eating away at what your money can actually buy every single day.
But the real crime here isn't just inflation. It's what you're missing out on, the opportunity cost. Just look at this chart. That 50 grand in a normal checking account, it's earning you, well, basically nothing, zilch. But move it over to a high-yield savings account, and suddenly it could be earning 4.5%, maybe more. And if you invested, you could be getting the market average. The gap between those options isn't small. It is absolutely massive.
So let's just be real here for a second. Keeping more than a few months of emergency cash in a standard checking account isn't being safe. It is actively choosing to lose thousands of dollars every single year. You are essentially paying a huge monthly fee for the convenience of using a terrible bank account. Okay, time for our third and final fee. And this one is the toughest one to swallow because the person responsible for this one is you. It's us. It's the tax we all pay for being emotional human beings. It's called the behavioral gap. There's this really famous study by a company called Dalbar, and what they do is compare the market's return to what the average investor actually gets.
So, over the long haul, the S&P 500 might return about 10% a year. But the average person, as you can see right here on the chart, they only get about 6.5%. So where'd the other 3.5% go? It just vanished. It disappeared into what we call the behavioral gap. That's the cost of panic selling when things get scary, buying it out of FOMO, and trying to time a market that is fundamentally untimable.
Let's make this super real. Just think back to March 2020. Remember that? The world is shutting down. The market is absolutely tanking. Your $200,000 portfolio is now worth $132,000. Every instinct in your body is screaming, sell, get out, protect what's left. So you do. You sell it all. But then, what happened just 4 months later? The market roared back and hit new all-time highs. If you had just sat on your hands and done nothing, your portfolio would be worth even more than when you started. But instead, you're stuck with that cash still sitting there at 132 grand.
So your brain, your emotions, they told you that you were being smart, that you were taking control of the situation. But what you really did was take a temporary, on-paper loss and you made it permanent. You basically paid a $78,000 emotional decision fee just for the feeling of doing something.
And this is precisely what Warren Buffett was talking about with this famous quote. The game isn't you versus some Wall Street genius. The game is you versus your own impatience. In investing, patience isn't just a virtue, it's your single greatest advantage.
So, what happens when all three of these silent killers team up on you over an entire career? Well, let's run the full horrifying simulation. Look at version A. This person pays all the fees, they're in high-cost funds, they make emotional mistakes. Their effective return is only 5%. Now look at version B. This person avoids the fees. They use low-cost funds, they automate everything, and they capture the full 10% market return. At retirement, version A has $800,000, which, hey, that's not bad. But look at version B, $3.2 million. That difference, that staggering $2.4 million gap, that is the devastating cumulative cost of letting these silent fees run wild.
Okay, that was a lot of bad news. But here's the good news, and it's really good. Once you can see these leaks, plugging them is actually shockingly simple. You don't need to be a Wall Street wizard. You just need a game plan. So let's call it your wealth leak audit.
Here's what you're going to do. Step 1, log into your 401k, your IRA, whatever you have, and look for something called the expense ratio. If you see anything over, say, 0.5%, you are getting hosed. Switch that money into a low-cost index fund immediately. Step 2, move your extra cash. If you have more than 3 to 6 months of living expenses just sitting in a regular checking account, it's got to move. Get it into a high-yield savings account, like today. And third, and this is maybe the most important, automate everything. Set up automatic transfers from your paycheck that go directly into your investment accounts. This takes the biggest enemy out of the equation, you and your emotions.
Because it all boils down to this one simple, brutal truth. Building wealth has almost nothing to do with how much money you earn. It is all about how much of it you get to keep. You could earn $200,000 a year and still retire broke if you let these silent fees just bleed you dry. Or you could have a totally normal salary and retire a millionaire simply by plugging these leaks.
Look, most people will go through their entire lives optimizing the small stuff, always wondering why they can't seem to get ahead. But that's not going to be you. You've now seen the playbook. You know exactly where the money is going, so the only real question left is the one on the screen. Now that you know where the leaks are, how much of your wealth are you actually going to keep?